Student Loans 101. Materials provided by Genesis Financial Management. Welcome to Student Loans 101. Today you will be learning about student Stafford loans, subsidized versus unsubsidized loans, how to apply, what the requirements are, and what to do if you get behind. What's a student loan anyway? Student loans are education loans that must be repaid with interest. They come in three major categories. You have your student loans, parent loans, and private student loans. Student Stafford loans. These loans are the largest source of federal student aid. There are two types of Stafford loans: subsidized, for which the government pays the interest while students are in school and during grace and deferment periods, and unsubsidized, for which students pay all the interest on the loan. Students may receive both types of loans at the same time. Origination and insurance fees of up to 4% may be deducted from each disbursement. Subsidized Stafford loans. These loans are for those students who have demonstrated financial need. The federal government pays the interest on subsidized loans while the student is in college and during grace and deferment periods. To qualify, students must be able to demonstrate financial need as determined in accordance with federal regulation. When determining eligibility, colleges consider all of the student's financial aid resources. Unsubsidized Stafford loans. These loans are not based on financial need. With unsubsidized loans, students are responsible for paying all the interest on the loan from the day the loan is first disbursed to when it is paid in full. Although these loans are made through lending institutions such as banks and savings and loans, you must apply for financial aid, attend a loan workshop every year, and turn in all documents requested before the financial aid office will approve your Stafford student loan. Current and former students who are in default or in overpayment status of federal student aid funds will not be permitted to receive federal aid. How do I apply? Complete and submit a free application for federal student aid. It's also called a FAFSA. Submit all the documents requested by the Financial Aid Office as soon as possible. What are the requirements? You must have financial need. This will be computed by the federal processor from the information on your FAFSA application. You must be enrolled in and continuously maintain a minimum of half-time 6 credit hours. All loans must be divided into 2 payments. The earliest a check may be released is the first day of the semester. Student loan forgiveness. Under what circumstances can my loan be forgiven? Under certain circumstances, the federal government will cancel all or part of an educational loan. This process is called loan forgiveness or discharge. Here are the following circumstances in which you may be granted loan forgiveness or discharge: closed school discharge, total and permanent disability discharge, death discharge, teacher loan forgiveness, and public service loan forgiveness. To find out whether you qualify for loan forgiveness, talk to the human resource staff at your employer. Volunteer work. These volunteer organizations offer loan forgiveness. AmeriCorps. Serve 12 months and receive up to $7,400 in stipends, plus $4,725 to be used towards your loans. Peace Corps. Volunteers may apply for deferment of Stafford, Perkins, and consolidation loans and partial cancellation of Perkins loans, 15% of each year of service, up to 70% in total. Volunteers make a real big difference in the lives of real people with 2 years of service in more than 70 developing countries. Volunteers in Service to America, or VISTA. Volunteer with private nonprofit groups that help eradicate hunger, homelessness, poverty, and illiteracy. Provide 1,700 hours of service and receive $4,725. Or the military. Teaching. Students who become full-time teachers in elementary or secondary school that serve students from low-income families can have a portion of their Perkins loan forgiven under the National Defense Education Act. This program forgives 15% of your loan for the first and second years of service, 20% for the third and fourth, and 30% for the fifth. Contact your school's district administration to see which schools are eligible. The American Federation of Teachers maintains a list of other loan forgiveness programs for teachers. Legal and medical studies. Many law schools forgive the loans of students who serve in public interest or nonprofit positions. Medical professionals can achieve loan forgiveness after making 10 years' worth of payments through certain loan programs. To see whether you qualify for this type of forgiveness, you can contact or visit www.studentaid.ed.gov. Or for more information on other paths to loan forgiveness, visit www.finaid.org. Defaulting on student loans. How do I avoid default on my student loans? What if I'm already in default? How do I get out? You are responsible for repaying your student loans even if you do not graduate, have trouble finding a job after graduation, or just didn't like your school. If you do not make payments on your student loans for 270 days and do not make any special arrangements with your lender to get a deferment or a forbearance, your loans will be in default. Defaulting on your student loans has serious consequences. Student loans are not dischargeable. Note that student loans are now generally not dischargeable through bankruptcy. It is fairly difficult to satisfy the requirements for undue hardship petition, which generally requires demonstrating that you made a good faith effort to repay the debt, that you will not be able to maintain a minimal standard of living and still repay the debt, and that the conditions that prevent you from repaying the debt will likely persist for most of the full term of the loan. Even if you satisfy the requirements of undue hardship discharge, often this will result in just a partial discharge of the debt. Federal Guide to Defaulted Loans. The U.S. Department of Education Debt Collection Service publishes a guide called Guide to Defaulted Student Loans to help students repay their defaulted student loans. It includes information about repaying a defaulted student loan, loan consolidation, the consequences of default, collection costs, resolving disputes, ineligibility for further federal student aid, and related topics. For more information on repaying a defaulted loan, call 800-4-FED-AID, or you can call us at 877-202-9246. That number 877-202-9246, and we can also give you more information on defaulted student loans. Consequences of a default. Your loans may be turned over to a collection agency. You'll be liable for costs associated with collecting your loan, including court costs and attorney fees. You can be sued for the entire amount of your loan. Your wages may be garnished. Federal law does limit the amount that may be garnished to 15% of the borrower's take-home pay. Your federal and state income tax refunds may be intercepted. The federal government may withhold part of your Social Security benefit payments. Your defaulted loans will appear on your credit, making it difficult for you to obtain an auto loan, mortgage, or even credit cards. A bad credit record can also harm your ability to find a job. You won't receive any more financial federal aid until you repay the loan in full or make arrangements to repay what you owe and make at least 6 consecutive on-time monthly payments. You will also be ineligible for assistance under most federal benefit programs. You'll be ineligible for deferments. Subsidized interest benefits will be denied, and you may not be able to renew a professional license you hold. Preventing a default. Borrow as little as possible. Make sure you understand your options and responsibilities before taking out a loan. Prepare a checklist of all of your loans, including the name and phone number of the lender, the type of loan, the amount of the loan, the interest rate, and especially any due dates and deadlines. Make your payments on time. Notify your lender or servicer promptly of any changes that may affect the repayment of your loan. If you encounter temporary financial difficulties, consider applying for a deferment or a forbearance on your loans. If you're having trouble making payments due to a more permanent income deficit, your lender may be able to suggest alternate repayment options such as an extended repayment, a graduated repayment, income-based repayment plans, income contingent repayment plans, and a pay-as-you-earn repayment plan. Consider consolidating your loans to combine them into one big loan. Keep careful records regarding your loans. Put copies of all of your letters, canceled checks, promissory notes, notices of disbursement, and other forms in a file folder. If you have both federal and private education loans and can't afford to make the required payments only on one, try to avoid defaulting on the federal loans. Postponing repayment. The two options available for postponing repayment of your student loans are deferment and forbearance. Deferments. During deferment, the lender allows you to postpone repaying the principal of your loan for a specific period of time. Most federal loan programs allow students to defer their loans while they're in school at least half the time. These deferments are for FFELP and FDSLP loans, not the Perkins loans. Note also that there are limits on the length of a deferment. Who gets a deferment? Deferments are commonly granted for students who are enrolled in undergraduate or graduate school, disabled students who are participating in a rehabilitation training program, unemployed, and economic hardship students. Do not stop making payments on your student loans until after you're notified that the deferment has been granted. Forbearances. During forbearance, the lender allows you to postpone or reduce your payments, but the interest charges continue to accrue. The federal government does not pay the interest charges on the loan during the forbearance period. You must continue to pay the interest charges during the forbearance period. Note also that there are limits on the length of forbearance. Forbearances are typically granted in 12-month intervals for up to 3 years. Getting out of debt. To get out of default, you will need to make arrangements with your servicer or lender to repay this loan. This is also called a rehabilitation program. Once you've made 6 consecutive full voluntary on-time payments, you will be eligible for additional aid. On-time is defined as within 15 days of the due date. Voluntary excludes payments made by garnishment or other offsets. After you've made 9 to 12 consecutive payments, applied for, and received rehabilitation, you will no longer be considered in default. At this time, record of default will be removed from the reports to credit reporting bureaus. For rehabilitation, the payments must be reasonable and affordable. This is determined by the guarantee agency and will consider the borrower's and his or her spouse's disposable income and financial circumstances. It can be below the required minimum payment of $50 or the interest that accrues, whichever is greater. If the guarantee agency determines that a smaller amount is reasonable and affordable based on the borrower's financial circumstances. Recent defaults. Also, if the default is very recent, the lender may not have yet reported the default to the guarantee agency. Lenders do not need to file a default claim until 90 days after the default occurs. If the borrower brings a delinquency under 270 days, the definition of default, within the 90-day period before the lender has filed a default claim, they can cure the default. It may also be possible to cure the default by consolidating the delinquent loan before the lender has filed for a default claim. Since the consolidation loan is a new loan and it pays off the delinquent loan, it effectively wipes the slate clean. While lenders have very powerful options for collecting defaulted debt and so do not need to negotiate, they will often prefer to get the borrower into a voluntary payment plan than have to take the borrower to court. A good rule of thumb is a payment plan where you pay about 1% of the total amount owed per month. For more information about your options, contact the servicer of the loan and/or the original lender from the current holder of the loan. The financial aid office at your school should be able to tell you the name, address, and telephone number of the lenders and can also provide you with help and advice about the repayment problems. You can also contact us at 877-202-9246 and we can go over your loans to see what kind of help you're eligible for. Student loan summary. Know the type of loans you're applying for. Keep in mind that student loans are not free money and must be paid or there will be serious consequences. Know the difference between deferment and forbearance. Avoid going into default at all costs. Questions, concerns, need help? Call us at 877-202-9246 or visit us at www.yourgfm.org. Thank you for viewing this video, and if you need help, please give us a call.